Howdy, I'm Tony Nestor. Thanks for watching this show. I'm out in the Mojave Desert this week, Southern California, south of Death Valley. It's end of February, so temperatures are pretty nice. Good time of year to be out here. Tomorrow is supposed to be flash floods, thunderstorm, hail. You wouldn't believe it. Everything's coming tomorrow. And then after that, it's going to clear out. It's probably going to be a really nice desert, a real nice spring in the desert this year because of all the precipitation we got. Should be really good for edible fruits and cacti later in the year. And boy, yeah, it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow. You can see behind me here why you have to be self-contained in the desert. As I mentioned in the first couple videos, in any survival situation, desert, mountains, jungle, you're going to have to take care of what are called the big five: shelter, water, fire, signaling, and possibly first aid. So out here especially, you've got to be self-contained because look around, there's not much out here to build a shelter, to get a campfire going. Certainly no water. That's why it's called the desert in Death Valley. Water holes are few and far between out here. So you've really got to be self-contained. That means your vehicle's got to be up to snuff. You got to have plenty of water in your rig. And when you go out hiking away from the vehicle or camping, you've got to be self-contained with all that stuff in your pack. Your fire starters, your cotton balls and Vaseline, your signal mirror, your knife, your water bottles, electrolyte replacement stuff, hat, sunscreen, all that stuff we talked about earlier. Because this area, especially Death Valley, Southern California, it's a beautiful place to go exploring and hiking and camping, but if you come out here and you go on a trip unprepared, you are going to suffer. This is an unforgiving region, hence the name, Death Valley. So definitely bring all your gear with you. But let me show you a little panorama of the area. Sun's starting to set here. Got to get camp set up, but let me show you some of the region around here and some of the sites. Got some beautiful volcanic mountains in the region here in the distance. Here's the long winding road I'm headed down here. And you know, the towns out here, sometimes you see signs where it says next services or next town 100 miles, 90 miles, 120 miles. And even when you get there, there might not be much in terms of a town. Might not be an operational gas station or a place to fill up on water, so definitely bring your stuff with you. Well, in the clips that follow, I'm going to show you some other scenes, some sites, some washes and drainages and cacti and different scenes from the desert. So sit back and enjoy the ride, and thanks for watching. So I'm in the land of Joshua trees, the Mojave Desert. And that weather I was talking about yesterday has rolled in today. Dumped a lot of rain in this area. This is the time of year you don't want to be in a flash flood or in a canyon due to flash floods, especially a slot canyon. It sounds like a no-brainer, but people every year venture into narrow canyons. They don't pay attention to the weather. What they don't realize is that it can be blue skies above you in that canyon, but 10 miles up there could be a cloud burst. It drops all its energy. And all that water and maybe silt and debris and logs and everything else are coming at you. So you may have boulders the size of vans tumbling down at you, trees and branches, and maybe 100 or 200 years of silt. Some of these canyons haven't seen a flash flood in them, maybe a century. So you've got not just the water, but debris and silt and logs and huge rocks coming at you. And it doesn't matter how fast you ran the 100 in high school, because very few people are able to outrun a flash flood, and that much force and energy coming at you is the problem. Research from the Grand Canyon shows that about 80% of flash floods happen between noon and 8 p.m. and during the height of our rainy season in the southwest, which is from July through September. So if you can avoid being in the narrow canyons, the slot canyons especially, during that time, try traveling the early morning hours or just avoid the slot canyons altogether. You're probably going to be able to avoid a lot of problems with flash floods. About 75% of fatalities actually happen in urban areas, in places like Phoenix and Las Vegas, where people don't pay attention to the flooded washes and try and blast through it with their SUV or Hummer. Well, I'm standing next to a swollen river that you can probably hear behind me, and from this snow melt in the high country and recent rainy weather we've had over the last few days, we've got some flash flood activity going on here. Normally this river is on the other side of these smaller trees, these box elders and willows here. Got some sycamores as well, sycamore right here. And you can see all the sediment in the water. It's brown. Usually this is a blue-green color, and right now it's brown from all that sedimentation and debris and silt. So this flash flood has stirred up a lot of activity, bringing it down over hundreds of miles into this drainage here. And as I mentioned before, majority of flash floods happen during the rainy season from noon to 8 p.m. So you want to be out of the deeper canyons during that time, or look at the weather forecast altogether and avoid going into those areas where there are no escape routes. And even when you're hiking in canyon country, you still want to look for escape routes, those up and outs as we call them, that you could scramble out and get out through the top if you had to. Even if you're camping in the desert, you don't camp in a wash or a drainage. I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but people have done it. You camp above on a shelf, rocky bank, a sandy bench above the canyon bottom, and even then you've got your escape route planned out in case you got to pull out in the middle of the night or if a storm comes. Flash floods account for, a huge percentage of the erosive activity in our canyons. Even if you look at the Grand Canyon, a lot of people look at that and think, oh, the Colorado River carved out the Grand Canyon. Well, that's only about 50% of the picture. 50% of the pictures created of the canyon is created by the erosive actions of the Colorado River. The other half is created by violent flash floods over millions of years that carved out that unique feature in the rock. So flash floods are a big part of canyon country, and you just got to plan ahead, take that into account. If you're going through these regions, especially through the narrower canyons, and the weather might be dicey.